And on today's show, accessing untapped defined benefit markets. Part 4 of this week's series on defined benefit terminations and structured settlements with industry expert Steve Pilgrim. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and Insmart. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 4, Stephen.
Back again.
All this week we've been talking about your game. This is where you live. I mean, talk about a narrow field of expertise. I mean, when I'm thinking about you, this is where you live.
It is, but it's also the opportunity. We haven't even scratched the surface of where we can be, the types of services that we can provide to clients of all shapes and sizes in these two marketplaces.
Well, now, when you say, and I love opportunity, and I love the word opportunity because it's, and what really makes it even greater an opportunity, it's untapped. Nobody's doing it hardly at all. So walk me through a little bit of your action plan for an advisor. He says, hey, I've watched your Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday show, and I hope you have already. And I'm coming into Thursday's show. I'm kind of getting interested. How do I play in this? And I want to play.
Right.
So walk me through a little bit of the action plan.
What we're looking at here is, again, from the standpoint of our client. And primarily, we're looking at plan sponsors who are facing the risks of the plan that they're responsible for. And really, the opportunities and showing the opportunities that these advisors can provide in a support method to plan sponsors. And they would include, again, to manage the retirement asset risk that they're going to have, the investment risk moving forward, is how they're matching up the assets that they have in their plan to the liabilities, the benefits, the promises that they've made on the part of their participants. In some cases, some of these plans have, and others, as we look forward down the road, will look at taking segments of their plan and offering those segments lump sum buyouts. So, as an example, maybe you've got a group within your plan that are vested in your plan, but they no longer work for you. They're terminated or they've gone on someplace else. Well, maybe look at that group as an opportunity to go and offer those folks lump sum distributions out of the plan, which now then kind of shrinks your world from the standpoint of what your ongoing liability would be.
I just want to stop you there, Steve. I've noticed in some of these buyouts that a lot of plan participants, I was kind of surprised by this, because they're really getting a discounted lump sum. They're not getting their full amount now.
Correct.
But it seems like they're okay with that. They're saying the present value of my lump sum is enough adequate. And I have other ideas. I want to maybe buy my retirement home and make it free and clear. I might want to take care of my grandchildren's college. There's a lot of things on the plate that says to a person, I don't mind taking less because I'm getting it a lump sum. And by the time I do the discounted value of present value, that might be a good deal.
Well, think about it. An enterprising advisor who has that client, you're my client who's just been offered a lump sum distribution. If I'm thinking straight as your advisor, I'm giving you options for what you could do with that lump sum. Roll it into an individual IRA. There's other types of things that you, me, as your advisor, could be offering to you because, again, this is just one piece of what's going to be maybe a multifaceted retirement plan that's going to unfold.
Now, when we were in I think it was Tuesday's show, we mentioned this issue of transferring the risk to annuities, and we're not talking about traditional shelf annuities. We're talking about group annuities that are really customized for this.
Yes.
Is it a hard area to learn, or if I have a good understanding of annuities as an advisor, this is a really easy transition?
My experience has been that the advisor's role largely is to act kind of as a bird dog. And they have the client, or maybe they've made the entree. And how I try to tee up the advisor is, first of all, my goal is not to make them an expert in the pricing and kind of how the watch is made from the standpoint of these defined benefit group annuities. I want the advisor to stick to what they do best, manage the client relationship, and if they see an opportunity, they know they have expertise and resources behind them. So from that standpoint, it's a matter of I help advisors kind of get into that position, but also give them a comfort level knowing that once one of these planned terminations start to unfold, because it is a pretty regimented process, and you need to know step one before step two is that advisor has all of the expertise and resources behind him or her to make sure that we're making them look good in front of the client.
When I'm talking about transfer prospects, so talk a little bit about the people that I'm looking here, because I always like to know, hey, who's my demographic?
Yep, your demographics include, if you have clients who own businesses, and again, all shapes and sizes, small to very large, municipalities. In one of our prior episodes, we mentioned some of the challenges facing public pension plans and whatnot. So if you have any centers of influence in that marketplace, unions, public utilities, plan sponsors. Again, you may know Jim, as your friend, but you find out, oh, he's the administrator for XYZ Manufacturing Company's plan. You're finding those resources where other centers of influence include third-party administrators who are actually doing the behind-the-scenes administration of plans, actuarial firms doing the pricing. The last point, and this is something that we can bring in from the standpoint of third-party data aggregators. Every pension plan is required to file various information on a regimented basis. Well, these third-party data aggregators call all of that information together in a pretty usable format. We have to tweak it a little bit once in a while, but from the standpoint of we can show you, for instance, in a 25-mile radius of where we sit today, Steve, is all of the frozen defined benefit plans in this geographic region. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an opportunity to say, let's go out and make some friends.
This is all public domain.
It's public domain.
Unbelievable. Well, I think that alone, and we have access to all this.
We do.
Okay. Well, I think that you keep that in mind. Say, Steve, I think I want to try this, and if you want to write me direct on this, and I'll make sure Steve gets it, steve.savant@ashbrokerage.com, and I'll make sure you get it. When we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more now. I want to shift back to structured settlements again, because I want to make sure there's these two areas of marketing that we're talking about, and I want us to understand the basics and how we can actually tap those untapped markets. We'll be right back. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. We're going to talk a little bit about prospecting in the settlement market, which I kind of like. Walk me through this. And the first thing I saw was PC agencies. Now, I'm well acquainted with this, and as you always say, hey, if you've been in this business long enough, you've had to have touched this market.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about these markets.
And also, the flip side of that, understand the unique aspects of that marketplace as well. But property casualty agencies, I think, are uniquely positioned to help clients where these structured settlement type situations come up. Again, they run the gamut from individual clients, small business owners. They have kind of the cross section that we often find in, again, kind of that day-to-day. I was injured on the job, or I had a traffic accident, those types of things. Well, generally speaking, your property and casualty agent's probably going to get first wind of that. So what we try to do is we try to educate property and casualty agents just enough so, again, when they see certain signs or they have certain conversations or inquiries by clients, they know enough that they have resources backing them up to help them in that unique situation.
Well, let's talk about broker-dealers. And my first question right off the bat is, any compliance issues?
No more or less than what we find with other financial products. So annuities, life insurance, they go through the same rigors that the broker-dealer defines for the compliance approval. And again, reminder that structured settlement annuities are fixed annuities, but they would fall through the same criteria for the broker-dealer. Centers of influence, I think, is another area where we find these cases and where advisors, where we kind of counsel advisors to look. You have attorney clients. You have maybe clients who work for companies in a claims department or some type of capacity where, again, these types of issues come up. And again, all they really need to know is that there are resources available, and maybe asking that one or second question, in that situation will then lead them to an opportunity that they would otherwise not know exists.
Now, some of these are a lot smaller than just the annuity market. You have mediators, you have guardians, people that work in claims that actually know about these things.
Right.
And we may have to we may have to follow this show up with a complete workshop on how to enter the attorney market in this regard, because to me, that would be the biggest demographic of all the ones that we have up here. Now, when we talk about doing mass torts, and I mean, we're talking about, I think we mentioned in the first show, we talked about the BP oil spill.
Yep.
That would be a big one. How could little people like ourselves get involved in such a massive litigation and a whole? That'd be great, but it seems too big.
A lot of people swimming in that pool, and I think that's one of the areas where, again, the high-profile, big buck, mass tort type situations or class actions. Those are the ones that How often are we going to have a BP oil spill claim that's going to come across? So you're going to find segments that are already in that marketplace. I think our larger opportunity, for our audience and for folks with whom we work, are the types of situations that come across every day across America. The 500,000 or the 50,000 or the whatever the case size is. But it's the types of things that some of these different centers of influence are going to have access to. And yeah, you're going to get the class action. You're going to get things that come up that, well, I had a client harmed. Okay, great. Then you certainly have the resources to help those folks as well. If that's where you're going to start, the mass tort, you're probably going to spin your wheels a little bit more than working with these other areas to say, there are clients that we can serve right away.
Now, you have a suggestion here that I didn't even think of. It didn't hit my thought process about buying professional practices.
Sure.
Talk about a little bit about that, because that could be a play for people that are actually on the hunt and have some capital.
Absolutely. And again, we see it specifically in our business where we have advisors who are starting to look around the next corner or two corners that, what is their exit strategy from their practice. Younger brokers or advisors that maybe would look at buying their book of business. Well, think about it from the standpoint of, again, some type of a structure whereby you, as the selling, of your practice to a younger advisor, you have some certainty that the payments are coming to you in more of a tax-deferred, managed type capacity. And if I'm a younger broker, or you have a younger broker who's looking to purchase it, he or she has some certainty in knowing that, okay, we've got an agreement in place. Steve can't pull out the rug on me because we've got this thing in place. And
I know the younger agent's going to fund it. It's already funded.
Absolutely.
It's actually coming from somebody else now. Third party, again, some of the substantial carriers that we've been talking about all week. That kind of brings up a great deal of solace for the older advisor, I think, because he says, hey, I'm not getting a direct check from the young man who bought me out. I'm getting a direct check from the actual insurance company. This is a done deal.
It is put in place, and again, similar to what we saw on a claimant and defendant side, think about it just as a business transaction, is the degree of comfort knowing that on both sides of that transaction, it's been funded, it's going to happen, and it makes for a much more a smoother transition from the broker, the original broker, to now a newer broker coming into that book of business.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our site, downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com, and go ahead and search our archives for any of our past episodes you've missed. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.